Good in the day, Badgers. Good in the day. I'm Andrew Pagan here. Now, I just I got asked recently. Well, I say recently. I've been asked more than enough times now. Why? How does my paganism relate to my politics? I have done videos on this before, but I will admit I've like I must be like over 150, 200 videos on my channel at this point. So I do. I think I thought I did do an update. Basically, the way I thought about gods originally, my like I was more of a what you might call an elementalist, pagan, neo-pagan, um, before, in that I saw the elements, that the basic elements of of creation as gods essentially. Then I had my own interaction, but that's a little bit later on. So because of, but even even then, like I, I still was doing a lot of research and reading and learning about different types of paganism, and so my philosophy was that it was going to be hybridized to that point anyway. Because not only that, you've also got to understand that for like the majority of my life, it's mostly been about paleontology and science. So when the allure of mysticism essentially hit me, I was already like 13, 14 by the time that you know, properly looking into that. And then I had a particular experience later on, but that like the those core beliefs of community, loving nature, and seeing joy in a world that has so much evil. These were things that, like, you know, stayed very true to me. And then I had, that kind of put me leftwards anyway. Now I had a moment, you might say, where I had my own experience in meeting what I interpreted as the goddess Frigg. And she spoke to me in Old English, so we're not talking about the Norse Frigg, we're talking about the Saxon Frigg. I've had, contact with some of the other gods since, or at least that's how I've interpreted it. And so, as an Anglo-Saxon pagan, for me, like the old teachings and the old ways of doing things, they're mostly lost. I have to rely on Christian, what different Christian, ancient Christian writers have got to say about us, like Beda and Saxo Grammaticus. So I've had to, as another channel, a pagan channel, Ocean Keltoy said, many neo-Norse pagans or Germanic pagans had to kind of hybridize because we don't know so much when it comes to practice, when it comes to practices and rituals, but largely because a lot of the knowledge was lost because of Christian purges. Beating around the bush around this. So, coming from all that historical research and cultural background, that already was pushing me leftwards anyway. It wasn't so much about the individual, but more about what can the individual do for the community. especially when it came to Frey, because she's goddess of wisdom and and love, not lust, but actual love and joy. I mean, that's mixed a little bit with Yoster, but still. So that's kind of where the on one my first explorations into paganism is very condensed, but it was my first explorations into paganism in different types of paganism and whatnot, and then it just hit me, and what's come since has just felt natural. It's just felt natural. It's not. Whilst the practices I've had to research, like the communion, so to speak, with my gods is whilst personal, for me, I don't ask the gods for wisdom to help me in my daily life, for me to help me in my daily life. If I ever ask the gods for help, it's to help others, and I don't ask very often because it's really not their part to play. Like this is why I don't. I've always been uncomfortable with the idea of an omnipotent single god, because that, I mean, quite frankly, it comes across as ridiculous. It just that's how it's always come across to me. Whereas different gods for different things has always been a thing. We're not, and not only that, but I won't deny scientific fact because of my beliefs. I don't let I have no. How do I get this? Because another thing that gets to me is where I get many atheists will chuck at me the same shit they'll chuck at Christians and Muslims, etc., and monotheists. I don't preach my faith. I it, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how, like, more simply to explain it. Like, for us, preaching is not a thing. Like, if people want to learn about what my faith is and what I believe, then that's all well and good. But if some idiot came up to me and said that they wanted me to go out and convince people that Frigg is real and she's her and Woden and Thunor and the other gods are the only real gods, then I'd look at you like you're a fucking idiot. It's why I tend to have the same arguments. I've actually had exactly the same arguments that I've had with Christians with militant atheists. Do you want to explain that one to me? Because I can't. Like, the only similarity I see is the vague similarity between the fact that one's arguing for the fact there are no gods and one's arguing for the fact there are only one god. But for us who believe otherwise, polytheism, or even agnosticism, it's not about convincing everyone else that you're right. What? That's not. To me, monotheism is about force, which just grates. It does. Like, monotheism grates against me, and to me, it's no wonder that it holds so much sway over the right wing. I know there are left wing Christians, but doesn't surprise me that the right wing would be attracted by using monotheism as a tool. Well, don't get me wrong. Like some of the after the tenets they go on about are fine, they're great and dandy. But when you start going into there is only one God, like to me that's a superiority complex. It's a societal level and cultural level uh, superiority complex. So like, you know, to me it's very similar to the class divides. You know, where the people look, they end up, you know, if you're from middle class or upper class, you do end up with a bit of a superiority complex over people from the working and disabled classes, so to speak, or benefits classes, so to speak. You know, I don't know, like, you know, I just I've been asked this more than once over the past months, and I thought I'd try to make this a bit clearer. I don't know if I've rambled a bit too much here, but like I do hope this makes things a bit clearer. Um, I've said many times in many different videos on my channel that this isn't like this isn't just me coming on and ranting all the time. This is supposed to be like a video journal of my journey through philosophy, religion, politics, and seeing how you lot would respond to that and see what you guys think of it. It's not. This isn't. This is like. Whilst I will go doggedly on and try to convince people of certain things, like taking seriously the effects of climate change and sea level rise. But like, I won't try to convince you that my opinions are the only correct opinions. If I am if I'm saying that, you need to take this seriously, it's a fact. I want you to take the fact seriously, not my opinion of the fact. Does that? I don't know if, because a lot of people seem to get confused. They don't seem to see the difference between the two. I don't want you to take my opinions of the facts seriously. I want you to look at what I've said about the facts and go. If you have issues with what I've said about them, go and research them yourselves. And if I've made it, if my understanding of the facts is faulty, then come and correct me on it in good faith. I don't know how. Again, I don't know how else to put it. Like, my faith isn't something that I try to preach to people. That's not what religion. That's not what my religion is about. It's not about forcing others to believe what I believe. It's about forcing people to see what's in front of their fucking eyes and to deal with life as it is and let the gods deal with everything else, basically. You know how, so you get atheists, like Graham Hughes, for example, will say that, like, forget space, we need to deal shit down here. Well, it's the same concept. Literally the same concept. We need to deal with shit down here. Leave everything else to the gods. It's essentially the same idea. And that doesn't mean that I think Graham should just believe in the gods. No. Many people have many different gods. I mean, it's not even like I deny the existence of the Christian and Jewish and Islamic God. But like, I I I see it. I see them. I see their God just as another God. I again, I don't know if this is going to be a concept that is a bit too far beyond for some people. But I've had this fundamental understanding when it comes to religion as a whole from a fairly young age. Like, I've always found monotheism and the way that they do things with monotheism very uncomfortable. That's why you don't get the constant prostrating and preaching to gods on this channel. That's not what paganism is about. And if you think it is, then I really think you need to take a double look at our cultural history. I don't want people to misunderstand me when I say, because I've done videos before where I've been accused, I've had to do response videos where I've been accused of anti-Semitism because I've had to go at, Zionists. I'm not against Judy. I'm not against, Jews. It's, Muslims or Christians, so long as they don't, as long as they're not aggressive to me, basically, as long as they leave me be, as long as they don't try to convert me, that's fine. You do you. I have a major issue when you start blaming people like myself, like blaming pagans for serious events that we got fuck all to do with. I mean, people go, oh, but the QAnon shaman. He's not a fucking shaman. That, of all people, that is the guy that is a cosplayer. I really wish people would actually do research instead of just looking at clickbait stuff and going, oh yeah, that's fact. I mean, I've looked at paganism from a scholarly perspective and from from a religious perspective. I'm like the YouTube channel, some of the YouTube channels and whatnot that I'm subscribed to, and and Facebook groups and whatnot that I communicate with. They're not like, us all chanting like, it's just a community. And those people who, they want to talk about their faith, they're not trying to push it on you. They're just trying to tell you about what they believe. Whereas the other side of what I watch, the scholarly stuff, comes from purely an objective perspective. What did those in history believe? Which is why I said earlier that for Anglo-Saxon pagans, neo-pagans, it's a lot more difficult for us. We've had to hybridize and even create new practices. I mean, to be fair, that's what all religions do anyway. Over time, they create new practices. Ours is just, has now had a resurgence, has had a re-emergence. You see this in natural evolution as well. Re-emergent evolution and convergent evolution. Different, biological traits being repeated over time, or disappearing and then coming back within the same family, within the same lineage, a phylogenetic lineage. So it's, again, why I keep arguing with people that seem to think we are completely separate from the animal kingdom. I was listening to Mooncat the other night, and she's great, but she was starting to go down that road of like, oh, but we really are separate, and it's like, we're not the only animals who are self-conscious. We are not the only animals to war. I mean, the mirror test proves that elephants do have that same part of the brain that we do, that can look at us, as recognize ourselves, and start, checking ourselves out in the mirror. Dogs don't do that very often. It's very rare it's actually statistically rare for dogs to be able to do that. Cats, I can't remember with cats. I think with a lot of cats, it's not a thing, but again, some cats probably. Rats, I know it's not a thing for them. So, and when it comes to war, chimps go to war, and they're still doing it. I mean, this was observed by Jane Goodall. Look at her fucking Doctor or Professor Jane Goodall. Not entirely sure which one I'm supposed to be using here, so do apologise. Look up her research, and it's still happening. So we're not as special as we think. We are special, but we're not as special as we think we are as humans. What I will say is that, again, bringing this back to my faith, please don't take the fact that my name says One Angry Pagan to mean that I think everyone else should believe in paganism. Because that's not how we believe things. If you've had an experience with a pagan that believes things that believes that paganism is like that, then you should really tell them to go and do their own research. I take my faith seriously. I take the education about my faith seriously, and other faiths. Our capacity to imagine is one of the reasons why we have stories, and stories are one of the reasons why cultures sprouted up. It's what kept them going. I mean, even now, like, science is telling factual stories for the most part. It's trying to tell factual stories, and or at least it's trying to tell the story of where we came from a more accurate perspective. But again, it's like, once again, it is just telling a story. And paganism is very story reliant. That doesn't necessarily believe that it means that all of us believe that the gods are going to have some direct involvement in our lives, or that the world was formed by the gods or whatever. And there's plenty of us out there of the school of thought that the gods are a product of us. Let me know what you guys think. I've rambled on another 10 minutes where I didn't think I was going to. I just wanted things to be clearer for people. I want people to have a fuller picture of where I'm coming from when I do say that my faith affected my politics. So you want basic bullet points. It's, again, community. It's a focus on helping everyone. In modern you've also got to take this from modern context. I'm not just talking about small communities. I'm talking about societies as a whole. How to improve our societies. How to make it so that we can all deal with the shit we need to deal with down on our Earth. This doesn't mean I don't have an interest in outer space, by the way, because I do. But we do need to deal with shit down here. And I love for the planet that I live on, and the part of my environmentalism is because I love nature, and that's partly through my faith. Justre, the Green Man. You know, these figures are figures that for thousands of years they've stayed, you know, and they still stick around. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll shoot at your back. Sort it your service. Blessed be, guys. And God weird.